Hi friends, hope we are coming your way as we do, nice and warm. Today, I have no choice but to talk about a great man who was a victim of time and place. I find it difficult to talk about this man, but I know one day my knowledge and understanding of Kwame Nkrumah is something I need to share with you. Without mincing my words, he is a great man. He is a great man that lived at the wrong time and in the wrong place. To start with, before we decided to talk about Kwame Nkrumah, born September 21st, 1909 in Ghana, then the Gold Coast, under the British colony. This man lived his life. As a young man, we learned he did very well in school and went on to be a tutor, kind of student in the Achimota College. And he's a very, very good person in terms of academics. There are several times when people do miss something very important about this young man. They will tell you he comes from a humble family. He actually came from a poor family. There is something people don't tell you about Kwame Nkrumah. As a young person, Kwame Nkrumah was a very religious person. He's a Christian. He goes to church and very, very close to his religious belief. That is one thing. People don't tell you that. Yes, they tell you he has a humble beginning. No, he has a religious beginning. But somehow within him, he also have ambition, great man's ambition. He had scholarship actually to go at that time. How many people go to school? So it's easy to go to United States of America to study. But he has one big challenge that people don't talk about. How he got to Liverpool and later to America. Kwame Nkrumah was not like any other people. Kwame Nkrumah went the hard way. Kwame Nkrumah went to Nigeria, Lagos by land in those days. 1940 something, 1930 something. He went by land to Lagos without any family. He knew nobody. He only knew what most of our young people knew today. I want to go to America or Europe. How do I go? History informed us that Kwame Nkrumah found himself in Liverpool from Lagos. In Lagos, actually when he struggled, went through hell, traveling from canoe, sometimes working, sometimes through the bush, sometimes illegally, from Ghana at that time to Nigeria, Lagos, to look for a connection man at the port to help him as a desperate young person to stowaway. We call it stowaway. In other words, you'll be hiding. They will hide you because you can't pay at that time for the ship. And how many people could take flight? No. So he was inside the cargo part of the ship illegally to find himself in Liverpool. And people were able to get away with those things at the time. Always remember that for this man to get out of Ghana going through this, he got to America to read theology. They say it's in University of Pennsylvania. Theology, religion. Yes, religion, theology is to learn about God and come back. Like people go to Iran, go to Saudi Arabia to go and learn about the Quran and all those things and come back to teach and, indoctrinate some of us, to teach us about God, about how to live like Arabs. And those who go to Jerusalem now, they go to Rome, they come to teach us how to be better Christians. That is to dream of going to heaven. While Nkrumah so he got to Liverpool. From there, how did he got the money to continue his journey to America? He worked, he did the menial job. And he got to US. It was in America he started meeting people who were talking about certain things. That is when his eyes started opening. He saw Britain and he saw America, and he compared that to where he came from, and people like that get awakened. So that experience wake him up. As an awakened person, they are talking about Manchester Pan-African 38 or 35, conference and so on. We read all these things in the history books, and I did read them very well. But there is something. He started making contacts, and what he preaches and what he says, joining the socialist movement. At that time, those kind of cells existed. The CIA and the British government started picking him up because he could see footsteps. But he can see communicating to people in the Soviet Union at that time and so on. But his time was also a very interesting time. 1938 to 1945, was that not the time we had the Second World War? That period, he was at that time in Europe. Yes, he was in Europe. He's not gone. That Second World War, remember the First World War, Ireland, India, and so on have started agitating for their independent right to self-determination from the British Empire as the Americans. And to some extent, that sense of self-determination has already started. But at the time, in the Gold Coast, it's illegal to have a political party under the British authority. Later, after the war, and the understanding is every group of people who want independence must be given their independence. And it became obvious that the French colonies and the British colonies, in particular those who are fighting, because that is the reason why the German fought the war. Togo, Cameroon, Namibia, and we heard of Tanzania, Tanganyika. We learned, and some island in the Pacific Ocean belonged to the Germans. And those lands, they want it back. They lost it in 1914 to 1918 First World War. And it was given to the British and the French, share between the two of them to manage the place as trusts. So after, and that is why the Germans fight. History has always found it difficult to tell us that is why Hitler fought that war. Because the war took another dimension, which we'll talk about here. So, when we look at this thing in that context, what we will be seeing is that radicals have started growing, those sense of independence in their agitation and so on. So after the Second World War, the colonies will be given in any group of people who want their, and they must be given. And the Gold Coast is one of that area. Côte d'Ivoire, Mali, Senegal, all these nations have to start agitating for their right to self-determination. Good. This man, Kwame Nkrumah, remember, he has been doing his own work. Coincidentally, he had a need we were told he was invited to the Gold Coast by the UGCC. What the Aquaji is it? Aquaji and Co. But we also learned Kwame Nkrumah is connected to the West African Socialist Movement, so they already have a plan to go. But the invitation changed everything. Why? So you see, the mystery around the invitation of Kwame Nkrumah to come, it looked like the UGCC, when we look at history, wanted him. But what about if the British are those who found a way of telling him to go? It's a possibility. Yes. Because we see, when he got in, they succeeded. Because remember, they are transferring the primary law of Ghana to the people of Ghana. And they wanted him, maybe you can see that he is background, a man totally deprived of everything in life, which is the story of Muhammad and Jesus. They have nothing in their life. Nothing. Those kind of people, when you have a question mark around who is his father, his mother died before he was born, he's this and that, and those kind of people do develop certain psyche, and they can be very strong in character. But that doesn't say every young person or everyone who goes through that route, they all have certain box they tick. But they might even be royals. Yes, anyone can have any problem for which they can be determined to achieve their goal. Kwame Nkrumah is one of them. When he was in Ghana, probably there was that feeling, because there's no need for the UGCC to invite him. So how did they got him? Probably they thought they can get him to change from his radical mindset and come in for them to go for independence together. And being now graduated in Ghana, an independent Ghana, as a member of the elite class, probably he will change. The man didn't change. He went in and he became a problem. And when the problem wasn't managed properly, he left their party for them, because he has a mission. The CIA and the MI5 have been keeping their record. They are following this man. But most of you are not aware. They have been following. They are not. They have the record on everyone, even at that time. And they know where you are going. America. United States of America, you are joking with them? They are just as even better as the European. Yes, their mind is not what you think they are. They are advanced. So what happened to Kwame Nkrumah? When he got to Ghana, he played the fast one. He got to the grassroots as his typical self. Start mobilizing, and his message was good. Because there's one thing about him. You see, he is somebody who gets what he wants. Yes. He is a man, is a go-getter. A very dangerous man to the so-called ex-colonial leaders. Kwame Nkrumah, yes, show the determination to go to war, which is one of the things they tick. They were looking at the box. This man will do it. Prison thing and all those things, independent is coming. But the independent was going to be given anyway. And even Gambia was given an independent. They didn't go to any war. So why should Kwame Nkrumah go to war because of independence of Ghana? Yes, we saw. Even in Zimbabwe, the problem in Zimbabwe and South Africa that led to the guerrilla warfare and all those things is not against the colonial masters. It's against the settlers, people who are there. Yes, it's not against the British. They gave them the independence. Zimbabwe got its independence like South Africa. Go and check the history. The difference is that they have to, how do I say, change, because the independence was given like apartheid. Well, if you want to say that is what you have in Israel, something like that. A small group of people who at that time, the ex-colonizers believe they can work better with, they put them there, and through them, they gave them the independence and expected them to manage the country. So, Mugabe did not fight with Britain. Mugabe was fighting with, is it Ian Smith? Yeah, in South Africa, in Zimbabwe. And then you go to South Africa, Pibuta and so on. These are people who migrated from Europe to settle down there. Get the history right. The independence was given. The Algerians, see, the French approach was different from the British approach. There are differences. In regards to the French approach, like the massacre you saw in Algeria, but you didn't see that same massacre in Egypt. The British just gave it to them because that was the position of the United Nations. Give them their independence, and if they have to work with anyone, it must be willing partnership, voluntary. It's not by force. This is why the problem you have in Ukraine and Donbass and Russia and all, it's by force. Today you saw, it's all about forceful occupation. It becomes like colonization. This is what UN is saying no to. UN has no problem with people voluntarily coming to work together, which actually is the objective of colonization, to create a bigger system, bigger nations, so that they can be able to work together as a family against rivals. And least I forget to tell you that people under a common primary law, they work better, and sometimes some want to leave if they feel marginalized than when people are under different secondary laws. Yes, different primary laws and therefore secondary law. Yeah, so let's move on with Kwame Nkrumah issue. What then happened was that the British actually will have preferred to give the independence to GB Dankwa because they also have their interest. But Kwame Nkrumah outsmarted them. And they have no choice because it must be fair play as far as they are concerned. They did everything, go back, come back, go back, another conference, another election, another this, another that. Let's negotiate, let's see what we can. They realize it's not working. 1957, they say, take what you want. But there was no violence. The military officers, remember, what took Kwame Nkrumah to travel out in that horrible condition is poverty. The independence was you see, there was agitation, but there was no war. For independence, there was agitation. What the British wanted was not exactly what Kwame Nkrumah wanted. Ghana with Kwame Nkrumah as a prime minister, and then that even started in 1950. He's the head of government. And that continued because he was winning. He was a prime minister. The Queen at the time was the head of state. And that is what the British wanted to continue even after independence. But Kwame Nkrumah, after the independence, doesn't want that. He wanted a Republican Ghana that will have nothing at that level of head of states with the British. So the British thought of the second alternative, which I will explain on its own, the Commonwealth. Now, we'll come to that. But because we want to focus on Kwame Nkrumah, he's a very, very important figure in this discussion. The victim of time and place. What started happening when we decided, to look at who this man Kwame Nkrumah is? We took the heads of states, even including Gaddafi, from the north to South Africa, and put their personality profile on the table and look at them carefully. One man stand out, and that is Kwame Nkrumah. He mean what he says, and he will go to any length to get what he wants. He will go to any length to get what he wants. especially when he's becoming powerful. Mugabe only wanted his Zimbabwe. So when you give him Zimbabwe, he sit down and keep quiet and die there. Mandela only wants his South Africa. Give him the South Africa and he's quiet. And so are all the rest, except one man that come closer to Kwame Nkrumah, Gamal Abdel Nasser. He sent military forces to Yemen. The British were not happy with it, and you saw how they quickly eliminated it. Yeah, the Americans and the Europeans were not happy. Quickly they eliminated. But Kwame Nkrumah is a different figure, because Gamal Abdel Nasser is in between the Arab League, the Arabian and the African nations. And because of his, skin and so on, the African continent was not appealing to him so much, though Egypt was in Africa. But when you come to Kwame Nkrumah, it's a different ball game. The man is a typical by the majority of the people of the continent. There's nothing you can say about that man. That is the man. But there's one problem. Kwame Nkrumah, in fact, he was in charge when you go to Ghana. Totally in charge. He is in charge politically. He's in charge in everything, and he's smart. So those rivals in Ghana couldn't have removed him. But when Kwame Nkrumah fall into a trap, the trap is when you, Kwame Nkrumah, you are a prime minister, you could have continued as a prime minister for 100 times as long as you are within the parliament. That is the prime ministerial. But Kwame Nkrumah opted for the American system, which looked like the French system. He wanted to be a president, but under Kwame Nkrumah, there was no prime minister. So technically, the American system, and the American system give you 4 years, and another 4 years you need to go. You need to go. So the Europeans and the Americans were comfortable that let us be patient for this man. 4 years will come and he will go. Just let's keep him busy. Because they do not want someone like Kwame Nkrumah to stay longer. The problem of Kwame Nkrumah was not Ghana. In his mind, he wanted a continental government. And that is where he's different from everyone else. Others, Nyerere and Co., they all got tired and they said they don't want to do it again. Some were removed on tribal petty issues. Kwame Nkrumah is different. He's not a tribal man. He's totally different. His focus is strong and he's dangerous. What made him dangerous is he will go to any length. Any length. Now, you have a whole continent. All of them have got their independence. When this man talks, you listen to him. You say, wow, wow, wow. So 4 years has finished. They've got their independence. There is no continent in the world where you have the whole continent as one nation. No. A continent is a continent. A nation is a nation. In a nation, you can have so many races, so many religions, so many whatever, but you can have a people with a common purpose. But on a continental scale, it's impossible. Assuming anyone even want to do it, you have those who don't want it for whatever is their reason. And when the OAU started becoming, probably, let's see whether it could work, it showed that the thing cannot work. A continental government will not be possible. It shows itself. They are divided. They are not divided for any other reason. They only did what human beings do, including Nyerere. They disagree with Kwame Nkrumah. So don't let us joke. Because all Nyerere want, Mwalimu Nyerere of Tanzania, what he want is Tanzania. Jomo Kenyatta want is Kenya. They don't want any United States of Africa. They don't want it. What they want is treaty union. They don't want any primary law common to them all. But that exactly is what Kwame Nkrumah wants. So Kwame Nkrumah finished 4 years. He fall into the trap again. because of his ambition. In Ghana, he has done so many things, jobs and everything, regardless of whatever the Europeans start and Americans started throwing at him with sanction and whatever, trying to tempt him. He's not interested. He's focused. Now, that automatically put Kwame Nkrumah into the class of, the two people we are going to use here, Stalin and Lenin. Russia, Soviet Union, Lenin and Stalin, Mao Zedong, yes, Abraham Lincoln of United States of America, Mao Zedong of China, yes, he is in their league. Kwame Nkrumah and Hitler, Adolf Hitler, this kind of people, they have a kind of mindset that make the liberals very, very uncomfortable. Very, very uncomfortable. All of them, all these five I've mentioned, have a tendency to war. Some went to war, some didn't go to war. Kwame Nkrumah was terminated. And why? Because if what Hitler did, because there are some of the heads of state who were not ready, you need violence, you need force. Because there's no common primary law. In the case of China, the Soviet Union, and United States of America, Abraham Lincoln, China, Mao Zedong, Stalin, Lenin, Soviet Union, they already have primary laws in place. They already have it. That made their job possible and easy, even where violence have to be applied. It's understandable and it's acceptable because they have a common law. But when you come to Adolf Hitler and Kwame Nkrumah, there's a big question mark. Totally question mark. In the case of Adolf Hitler, he, assuming he wanted the United States of Europe, which that's the best you can look at when you look at, though initially it was about solving the problem of the German, but it became like he wanted one common Europe, because at that time that was the noise among the pan-Europeanists. The problem was most of the European countries didn't want it, and Hitler will get what Hitler wants. So that led to war. Although piling up weapons and doing everything, and everybody turned blind eye, and they left him alone. And they are aware of what he's doing, but they left him alone. It's nobody's business. He won't go to war. They even thought he only want his colonies back. He didn't go for the colonies. He went for the European land, so that they will have, like you have today, the European Union common law. That is exactly what that's why you hear some of us saying that the Europeans have succeeded in bringing the Europeans together under one common law, excluding Switzerland, without firing one shot, which is great, because they don't want to be together, but they are together. They are together. And when you go to the African continent, imagine you just remove yourself from being a sympathizer, which we all are. I was born, I believe, I love Nkrumah, I really love him. Remove yourself and look at, take a bird eye view. Look at it from where the Americans and the Europeans at the time, the British and the French, their colonizers, are looking at the situation on the African continent. And they are looking at one thing. They may not have a problem with Africa being one country. They don't have a problem with that. India is one country, and then what? And then what? The problem they have is that there is a need for the use of force, because that's the alternative. Kwame Nkrumah and co were not talking about democracy at the level of any OAU. No, these are the people who are ready. We even grow to learn that in Ghana, young people were taught to fly aeroplane. Why are you teaching school children, young people, to fly aeroplane? He gave himself away. But why are they military officers? What plane are they flying? Oh, you want to upgrade the Ghanaian forces to a different level. Hitler did the same thing. And thousands of people, because if the war starts, if the war will be limited to the African, it will have been wonderful. Wonderful. Like they contain it in China and contain it in the United States of America. Yeah, those who agree and those who disagree. And then Abraham Lincoln took them to war. Yes, there was winners. Soviet Union, you saw it. In the case of Hitler, everybody turned blind eye and so many people died. If it happened on the African continent, look at it this way. At that time, maybe not too much of China, but Soviet Union will be on the ground supporting their ally. And somehow, to so many extent, one will say Kwame Nkrumah is a friend of the Chinese and the Soviets, the Russians, the Soviet Union today, Russia today. And therefore, what side do you think France will be? What side do you think Britain will be? Do you think they will sit down for Nigeria to be attacked? Do you think they will sit down for Ivory Coast to be attacked? Do you think Americans will sit down for Liberia to be assuming because Tolbert, everybody know the position of Tolbert, everybody know the position of Balewa at the least, everybody know the position of what do you call his name, Tafawa Balewa. Everybody know where they stand. They are the pro-West, they are the pro-British, they are the pro-Americans, and everybody also know where Mali, Guinea, and Ghana stands. But they are not even looking at West Africa. They are looking at the whole continent. Whole continent. Apartheid South Africa is in South Africa with most of the weapons. Where are we going to sit down? After the Second World War, the First World War, everybody turned blind eye. We had the Second World War. Thousands and millions of young people lost their life. Will you sit down after all the carnage to quench it? Because the Russians, like you are seeing in Iran now, it's going to happen there. I'm talking about Israel and Palestine. If they don't handle this thing carefully, that exactly. And this thing now get out of hand. Now, Nkrumah will get what Nkrumah wants. So, the Europeans started becoming uncomfortable. Americans become uncomfortable. Do we leave this man and hope he doesn't do what we think he's going to do? Or we have to relieve him of the position? Because the primary law, Kwame Nkrumah was elected and given the mandate, is the one in Ghana. That is the one the president of Ghana today is using. The Nigerian one is using the one in Nigeria. That when the French tested atomic bomb in Niger, Kwame Nkrumah was told to mind his business in Ghana, but he says he's not minding his business in Ghana. It's part of his business. Kwame Nkrumah is not a joke. But something also happened even to frustrate the Europeans the more. Kwame Nkrumah continued to be winning the election. He was winning the election. So the ex-colonizers and the Americans were uncomfortable. But those who are even more uncomfortable are his own compatriots, Ghanaians themselves, the Mati. We call them the Matimihu people, the people who believe they by birthright they have a right to rule over Ghanaians. They, and there was so much problem in Ghana that so many of the tribal parties started growing, so many of them. And CPP Kwame Nkrumah is on his own. But because of his work and how he's changing life, because he's so smart, he knew that his base is Ghana. The remaining one, he is planning for the future. And he will use anything as long as he built Ghana very well, like Hitler did build Germany. He knows very well. And he has so many supporters and loyalists. But others, despite the great work he's doing in Ghana, so that he maintained, because he knows the value of democracy. He knows it in Ghana. As to whether he can tell Ivorians to be democratic or tell Niger, that is what is, they didn't even cross their mind there, because if the Chinese one can do it, the Russian Soviet Union did it, even Abraham Lincoln did it in America, then why not? So at the back of his mind, he will get them because he knew they will understand and it will be useful to all of them. That's the way he sees it. They started encouraging, whether they encouraged the locals to start becoming a bit violent with what they want, or whether they choose to be violent politically, but violence started becoming part of the politics in Ghana. One thing led to the other, and Kwame Nkrumah again made the matter worse by declaring one. Initially, he told them to come and form one party against him to keep them busy. He's very smart, very, very smart. They refused. Even when they did it, actually they couldn't beat him. They couldn't beat him. They came together because he said the tribal party convinced them. They came together, formed a political party. They still couldn't beat him. And then the violence was raised to a different level. And he was tempted, so he declared one party state, only CPP government, no more election here. You only join my party, and you. So technically, he has set himself. So in 1957, right? If you start counting, when you start counting the time he spent as the head of state or head of government of Ghana, from 1950 to 1966, he will have done 10 years as the president. Oh, let us overlook the time before Ghana was granted her independence, because we were given our independence, we were granted, there was no war. There was nobody who died. Those who said they want to die because of them, they didn't go for independence of Ghana. They went to die. They died because they were demonstrating for their salary, and they were shot. But the politicians took advantage of it. That's all. That's all. They were not staged by, they did their own thing. They are ex-soldiers who fought the Second World War, and they wanted a better treatment and more money, and the British shot them by demonstrating, because they are military officers and they are not supposed to what? Demonstrate by law. But that said, when he declared Ghana one party state, you look at where he started. He has already done literally 10 years or more. Now, if you are calculating, people even say, okay, let's forget when he was the head of government. When was he the head of government? You remember government business, the head as the head of government business, 1950. Then 1957, he became the prime minister now the head of government itself. And he did that for 3 years. And in 1960, he led the country. We won't say he declared it because there was parliament, there was debate, there was a kind of even small referendum, and Ghana became what? A republic. So we are no more under the British directly. We are on our own. And by that, so 1960 to 1966 when it was over, technically there is 6 years. But we all know that election must be every 4 years. After 4 years, another 4 years presidential system, which he put himself into that trap, he must go. Then when you now declare a country, right? Whether you are counting from 1957 to 1966 when he was overthrown, or you want to count from 1950 when he was the head of government till 1957, then 1960, then 1966, it's a long time. Now, that started giving the impression that this man is not going to anywhere. He was buying time. But he has a different agenda. He is not, Kwame Nkrumah is not, if he wanted to be like KOFI Boahin, he want to be in Ghana forever, the British will have left him there. There are so many. Museveni, how many years? 40 years, still sitting there. Nyerere got tired, he says not doing it again. Mugabe died there. They don't have problem with that. As long as you remain within the colony. It's when the threat is when you are crossing the border. And Kwame Nkrumah, because crossing the border is very difficult. Very, very difficult. In fact, recently we heard this man, Paul Kagame, has forces in Congo. And it's a bit challenging. They don't accept. You don't cross border. You stay in your country. You stay in your territory. You don't cross border. The international community frown at it. And when we form maybe African Union or OAU, it didn't go to anywhere. It was like we form it on paper and it's still on paper. Then we formed the ECOWAS. What Kwame Nkrumah did, what lessons have we learned? The only thing we can do to make the life and the work of this great man worthy worthy of his effort. Worthy. You see that they didn't kill him. If they wanted to kill him, they would have attacked him when he was inside. What was the military force of Ghana at that time? I mean, it's like they are like as good as police. It's not still strong. You need nothing less than 10 to 20 years of good military training for you to have the standard you will need that can stop foreign forces. And besides, Ghanaians were not producing weapons, so we might be importing some from the Soviet Union, which then started making the British uncomfortable because they want to know everything we have in the armory. They want to know everything they have in Nigeria. They want to know everything they have in Niger. They keep stock. They keep list, they check what you have. You will not produce it, they will produce it. We will be discussing this when we come to the issue of who is responsible for security in West Africa. Must it be France? Is it the business of France to be responsible for security in any part of West Africa? That question today, we must ask the question. This is why we form a regional body. But the challenge we have again is what lesson? Now we have people who are entertaining. History has become a mean of making us getting the corrupt people together in a beautiful hall. And they have looted the state little money, and they'll sit down and be laughing. And you have someone, a professor and a doctor and all these pastors and so on, entertaining people, telling us the history of beggars. People who must be pitied. Africa is so poor. Africa is so weak. Africa is so. You remind that Africans were caught as slaves. Africans were balkanized. Africa, what do you call it? Berlin Conference. All this. It makes me sick. They'll be telling us miserable story every day. Hopeless. Let us wake up. We told them. They do that for the little money they get when you are flying from Kenya. One of them said he flew from South Africa. He's a pastor. He said his father was killed with 8 bullets. They shot his father when he was a child. And he became a public speaker. This man has been doing evangelism, talking about Jesus Christ on the cross all over Africa. He said he flew from South Africa to Zambia. From Zambia to Ethiopia, from Ethiopia to Nigeria. When you put the Nigerians together with the South African and the Kenyans, you have finished us. You have finished all of us. You have finished us. Now they've invented a way to be entertaining people, telling us Africa must be great. Africa must be great. Which great? We cannot continue to be doing this. The business we have is in West Africa. Looking at the life and death of Kwame Nkrumah, looking at what probably he might have got wrong. And I don't think Kwame Nkrumah got anything wrong, really. He did what he was in the world to do. He did everything. Because if he didn't do those things, how will I have had experience of knowing that somebody did exactly, he ticked all the box. All the box. If Kwame Nkrumah was in China, he would be exactly like Mao and he would be successful. If Kwame Nkrumah was in Soviet Union, he will have been successful. His name will be written like Stalin and Lenin. If Kwame Nkrumah was an American, his name will be in history. He will be successful. Hitler failed. Hitler failed because you can't have so many people killed, and after all this death, you yourself, you die in the bunker. What kind of nonsense is this? Hitler failed. And our Kwame Nkrumah, if we can learn from, in fact, the Germans, they have learned so much. They sat down. They know what Hitler wanted, and they knew why it wasn't successful. We now should know what Kwame Nkrumah wanted, so that this man will not die in vain. And the only way we can succeed is to learn from his what I call mistakes. Because if you have a project, Kwame Nkrumah's project is United States of Africa. The reason why Gaddafi was killed is totally different from why Kwame Nkrumah was killed. You see, maybe Kwame Nkrumah didn't have the time Gaddafi had and the resources, because Gaddafi was said, remember Lokabe bombing? You remember Lockerbie bombing? Almost 250 people die in Panam, in Scotland. You remember the aeroplane, Americans, most of them. You remember Gaddafi was alleged to have been involved in financing the IRA. Also, I mean, technically, and he was there for almost 40-something years. So, but is Gaddafi really desperate? He tried crossing border and they stopped him. Gaddafi wanted to run over Chad and Niger, and the French soldiers went and contained him. But that I think is the man that will have come a bit closer to Kwame Nkrumah. But he is not a civilian, he's a military ruler. Kwame Nkrumah is a different kettle of fish. Totally different. But if we can pick all these people and learn from them, put them down on the table, if we can't do anything, put their pictures there, study them one by one, which we did in our mission. We sat down, we put their picture one, but they all have pictures. The date of birth, the date of the work they did, when he became the president, how he died, all the African head of states, the countries, we put them on the table and we study each of them. We have the time. Then we went out. We took certain people who have certain characteristics. There is where we got Mao, where we got Lenin. Mao has changed the destiny of the people of China. He has changed it forever. Today, the Chinese can look at the Americans in the face and tell them to mind their business. Mao has done that. Lenin did very well. Stalin and Lenin, they are the same thing, right? Soviet Union became a force. They land in space. They do anything. They are actually the rival of US. And America today, who will look at America and you will not say this is a success story? Yes, and that is exactly what Kwame Nkrumah wanted. But Kwame Nkrumah and Hitler, they went down in history. But we have to step up to say, now that we have studied everything inside and outside the box and look at how the dynamics play themselves and know the objective, but maybe the tools and the time and place that these things were done were not probably what did the job. But we can also see that all these small dots called colonies that we inherited. I will not blame Europeans for forming Gold Coast. No. Actually, they did us a favor. George Austin's grandfather was supposed to be a slave. He's now the leader of American Army, the chief of defense, the one speaking United Nations. You saw him. He looked like me. And their fathers did very well, even though they are sold. America was good. America is good for them. Condoleezza Rice, Barack Obama, they are living good life. If their fathers were taken as slaves, in fact, we who sold them, if we did sold them, we did them a favor. Because where they are now, our children are running to go there. We have a problem on our land. And we need to be practical and serious about it. West Africa call. The ECOWAS call. Forget about the continental it's like Jesus Christ on the cross. Are you going to wait Jesus Christ on the cross? They use him to tell people story every day. You see this evangelist, they go and rake the money every day. They've now turned Africa on the cross. Yeah, that's what they are doing. That exactly. We are black people, we are Pan-African, don't fall for them. Work with us. Wake up. Increase the number. Our YouTube, our WhatsApp, our this, our that. Go there, be part of this movement. We will not fire one shot because we know the problem. It's only when you don't know the problem, like my son, he will start throwing everything around because he doesn't know how to solve his problem. He doesn't know. But when you know your problem, you don't need to be a hooligan. Why do you want to fight? Fight with who? This ECOWAS with the primary law is a success story. It's a source. We want France to go, isn't it? Yeah, France will go without sanction on 15 countries. We are looking at you. They can't do it. America will go home. They will not attack us again. When they put sanction on us, we also put sanction on them. When last did you hear Americans putting sanction on Europeans? Yes, they've done it before. When Donald Trump was there, they put sanction. They put certain tariff and they reduced any commodities. The Europeans replied. There was no war. There was no war. Nobody fought anyone. We will not have a reason. We will just have our negotiators to sit down, even when they are corrupt, to argue and defend their own interest. And that will be our collective interest. We can change this destiny. I can feel it, and I just hope you guys will wake up so that in my lifetime, when I die, that's all. People will look at my grave and say, oh, there lie that great man that made this thing possible. That's all I want in my life, because the only thing I know is one day I'll be dead. What will people say about me? He had kids, where he lived in London some times ago. He now have a house, and then what? He said he has been to university, and then what? Let us change destiny. We can do better. We can do far more. We can change lives. And we don't need to shoot at anyone. Why do you want to? Sometimes you can win a battle without firing a shot, and the Europeans have proven it's possible. We can do it. You can do it. We can all do it. There is no need to fight anyone. Yes, sometimes problem may look a bit strong, complicated, and it is not as complicated. Look very well, and you will see the loopholes, and you step forward. Yes, destiny has called. Please and please, let us be active. Let us make a change. Let us use democracy, because war, autocracy, we are not one anyway. We are not one. Togo is Togo, Ghana is Ghana. Sierra Leone is Sierra Leone. Nigeria is Nigeria. We are not one. We all look black. That doesn't make us one. Let us use the power and the opportunities that come with primary law. Then we will build on the secondary law. We already have the secondary law. We've signed all the treaties. We've signed all the charters of ECOWAS. We've signed all the conventions of ECOWAS. It's not a problem. Let us put a blanket primary law, legislative law, unconditional law over the conditional laws we have, and we shall land on the moon. On this note, I want to say thank you very much for staying with me. Like I always do, the book is here. We continue to remind you. Why? Because we need you to work for you. We need you to work together. We need you to make a history. We need you to make ourselves the great people of tomorrow, that when people look at history, they remember us. So go to our website on www.E for Echo, C for Charlie, D for Delta, R for Romeo, A for Alpha, .org. Please, it's .org, not .com, .org. Download a copy for yourself. Get one for your loved ones. December is coming. Just buy one, £9.99. Give it to them. And I promise you, on Amazon, TikTok, and so on, you'll be getting these books to buy, so that you can see why we can do this. More importantly, remember to like, share, and subscribe. My humble self, your servant, KOFI Ali ABDUL. I want to bid you a beautiful, beautiful time. While we can laugh, please let's have some laughter. Thank you, thank you, thank you.